I ask women to keep a journal.
Yes.
Write down things that as they're happening to you, things that are happening to you as they're happening to you. But one major thing is do your annual checks and then start now to be intentional about your health, self-care,
Self-care.
your
I was
mental
going to
state,
state, yeah.
your exercise,
That's
nutrition. You know.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Wellness Waves Undiluted. I'm your host, Monica Imunjeze.
And it's me, your co-host, Lika Hunsi. Now, today's topic, let's just dive right into it. We're talking about work-life balance for women in their prime. Today, we have a special guest with us. Her name is Mrs. Ogumbi, and I'll let her do the honors to introduce herself further. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Chinyere Ogumbi. I'm a pharmacist. I'm an education leader. I do a lot of work in consultancy. I'm a mentor. And I would describe myself as a woman in my prime. I'm a mother of five lovely children between the ages of 24 and 16. So yes, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a career person. I've done a lot of things. And it's good to be here.
Thank you so much for coming. So this topic is quite broad. You know, we had that conversation before deciding to narrow it down to women in their prime.
Yes.
And what would you let's just dive right into it, right? Okay. So what would be your view about this? And especially because we say women in their prime, so a bit of definition around that.
Prime, yes.
Yeah, what makes a woman in her prime, and how does that affect work-life balance?
Okay, woman in her prime is also it's wide.
Yeah,
you know. I like to say that every woman goes through 4 seasons. We take it like the weather. So your spring season is your 20s to your 30s. You're young, you're ambitious, you're going through education, career, you have high career goals. You're meeting
those goals.
Yeah, you're meeting those goals. You're getting into long-term relationships,
Yeah.
Some of us start having children at that time. Then you go into the summer period where you're consolidating. So that's maybe between your 30s to maybe your mid 40s, so you're consolidating on what you did in your springtime. You're achieving more, taking on more roles at work. Your kids are growing at the same time. Your role as a child starts to change because you are asserting yourself a little bit more with your parents, you know, and all of that. And then we go into autumn, which is what we like to describe as prime. But if you have understanding of all your seasons, then at every point in time you are at your prime. Is what I think.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but that's what we like to describe as prime. You're the more mature person. Your kids have left home. Your roles are now more. You're transitioning into higher leadership roles, but then you're also struggling with hormonal changes. You're struggling with a lot of other things, and you're just trying to strike the right balance. And then you now go into your 60s and above. So you're thinking more about legacy.
Yes.
I want to leave something bigger than me here. Your relationship with your children is changing. You're now more like grandma, and all of that. So there are different seasons. And that's why the life of a woman is interesting. A man can extend his springtime and take it down a bit more. But for women, we're constantly changing, we're constantly evolving. And that's what makes it a different conversation for every stage. You understand? And that's why when we said work-life balance, I said, well, it means different things at different times. And what for me, this is my definition. As I said, we're changing the definition. What work-life balance or any type of balance involves is taking a look at your relationships, taking a look at purpose, taking a look at energy and your health. If you're able to balance these 4 pillars, then you have achieved balance.
Excellent. I think I love the way Chinyere has defined prime, and obviously, as you talk about the seasons of life, especially we were talking about women, we're relating to work to life, but you've mentioned some pillars there which are very, very key. And so if we look at those pillars and try to expand the discussion around that, what would be your thoughts?
So energy, if we're still tying it to the different seasons, in your 20s to your 30s, you can stay all night, stay up all night dancing and still be very productive the next day.
Yes.
So you can sacrifice sleep, you can work, you can study. There's so many things you can do. I mean, that's when you bag as many degrees as you want to. That's when you can be doing many things at different times. Your energy level stays up. But as you go down, it starts to decline because of the things that are happening in your body. It's actually science. It's not, and so because it's science, it's inevitable. All of us are going to get there. But knowing that you're going to get there is what helps you to prepare for those different seasons. So your energy, your relationships will change because as you're getting older, you're becoming more aware of boundaries. You're discovering who you are. You are learning to say no. You stop taking on too much. You're not as concerned with pleasing people. I also talked about your health.
Yes.
So naturally, you have to be more intentional about being healthy. If you are not exercising in your 20s, nobody will need to tell you to start taking nutrition, exercise, and every other thing as seriously as possible as you start to, transition into your seasons.
Okay, so let's pick up on the science of it, the biology of it, because it's really biological at the point. And you make the point about what you do in your 20s or 30s would also affect you in your prime, So sometimes I tell people it's nice to inculcate those habits earlier on. So the prime is an easier phase to go through. But whether you have or you haven't, so we're in our prime now. The science of it, the biology of it, the clock is ticking or has ticked. Which one is it?
It's ticking.
The clock is ticking.
Till you go.
It's ticking, yes.
It ticks till you go.
And then the hormones. Because, in other areas, in other geographies, when women are in their prime, there are, how do I put it simplistically? There are products that they are prescription products to help them through the menopause, the symptoms and all of that. But I notice within Nigeria, let's talk about Nigeria, as well. You don't see as many people on those products. So can you talk a little bit around that?
So it's about understanding. If you don't understand yourself, if you don't understand that what you need, you're not going to ask for it.
Exactly.
So in Nigeria, because of our culture, there's a lot that we look past. There's a lot that we ordinarily didn't used to even talk about because it was like just suck it up.
Taboo.
Yes.
Just
deal with it. Deal with it.
But we're becoming more aware now, and people are talking about it. And I actually did a deep dive because I would consider myself a woman in my prime.
Yes.
And we call them HRTs.
Human replacement
therapy. They are available.
Yes.
They actually are available here. But because we're not asking for them, because we didn't understand, and that's what we're talking about just before we started.
Yes.
We didn't even, so stuff is happening to you. You don't do a deep dive. You don't even understand what's going on. So you don't even know how to ask for help.
Yeah.
But now people are becoming more aware. There's a lot of information. And these products, some of them are available. But maybe now, if we know that there's a whole demographic that needs this, and maybe some people can actually even focus on bringing those products in.
So let's talk a little bit about the symptoms. So for example, we have the hot flashes, we have the mood swings, we have the where people are very short-tempered, so you're a woman in your prime. I mean, apart from being a healthcare professional, so you have an understanding. So let's talk a little bit about the symptoms so we make it real for people.
people.
Yeah.
Yes.
Caveat. My symptoms will be different from
Absolutely.
yours.
Absolutely.
Will be different from hers, you know.
Absolutely.
So, but there are general symptoms. So every time everybody's talking about hot flushes, those are the ones that are even
And the sweats, they
you
breaking
just
out
break
into
out in the
sweats.
What's the frustrating ones, like brain fog? You know, you can be in the middle of a conversation and you just forget. You know, and you're struggling because you know that's the word is right there. It's right there, but I can't. You know, sometimes your energy levels drop to the point that you're feeling ill. You're not ill. You go to the hospital. There's nothing wrong with you. So energy levels drop. Then sleep. Difficulty with sleep is a major, you know, and the problem with sleep and the sleep cycle is that it affects every other thing. So difficulty with sleep, there's so many things. And like I say, because my symptoms will not be the same as your symptoms, the time when some people start perimenopause as early as 42. Some people in their late 30s start having perimenopausal symptoms.
Yes.
So this is an age where we have to start doing a lot of self-examination, deep dive into what is going on with you. Try to understand what is happening with you and have conversation, you know, with other women. I think we are even at a point where there should be more like support groups.
Yes.
Where you can walk in and sit down and listen to other people and see that this is what they're going through.
You'll
find what you can identify with or who can help you. And that is helping you through it.
Absolutely.
You know? So that's what
I think for me, because I'm not there, so there's little to contribute in terms of experience. But however, just even listening to you, there's already that fear because I will get there. So what would you even advise? As you said, everybody would react differently. In fact, I've heard of people that pretty much don't even face any major change. They just know that they're already in menopause. They didn't have that premenopausal, you know, challenges and all that. So how is it that it just happens? Like, is there anything you could do before to help you before that stage comes? Is it just how your body decides to react? You know, what's now I'm just talking like a normal human being scared. So what would you say?
First of all, ditch the fear.
Fear is already there.
Ditch the fear.
We're getting close.
I think the major thing is just like she said earlier, starting early.
Yes.
Keeping tabs on your health, doing your annual checks, right? There are some pointers, indicators that, you know, this is where we're going to. You know how your body feels. Keep a tab on how you're feeling and the things you're feeling. I ask women to keep a journal.
Yes.
Write down things that are, as they're happening to you, things that are happening to you as they're happening to you. Or one major thing is do your annual checks and then start now to be intentional about your health, self-care, your mental state, your exercise, nutrition, you know, just start taking care of all of those things so that it's easier for you to transit.
Excellent.
Okay, so is it like a so let's talk a bit about this mental health part, because I've heard some of the symptoms could come in like anxiety, depression, or even like crazy mood swings, you know, anger just from nowhere and all of that. So if I'm hearing you, some of them could be symptoms that are amplified by how you already feel.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
So if something that maybe on a good day won't really get you so upset can just trigger you because you already even have things that you were already dealing with.
Absolutely.
Okay. Just wanted to
So
understand.
let me
that.
expand a little bit and add to what Chinyere has said, and I kind of alluded to it. So if self-care and your wellness are already a part of what you do intentionally, it eases you better through that prime. So for example, you're very conscious about nutrition and what you eat. You're eating healthy, you're eating vegetables, you're eating fruits, you're low on the carbs, low on the sugar. So your body is better prepared than somebody who has been high sugar intake, carbonated drinks, and all of that. So that's one thing. Then physical exercise. So if you're somebody that has a routine that you have developed earlier on in life, it's easier for your body as you get to the prime to be able to manage some of these symptoms, because physical exercise, nutrition link to sleep. So if you are able to have that balance and already your sleep, you have a very good sleep routine, your sleep hygiene is good, so you are less likely to manifest the symptoms of insomnia, for example. You're less likely. And so again, that affects your moods, because when you don't get enough sleep, you're irritable. You're irritable, and that's what causes some of the anger and the outbursts and all of that. So being very conscious of some of those things. And then some people do a lot of products, supplements. There are some that help, depending on the stage that you are in, that could all contribute to the way you would manifest in your prime. But like you said, different people are different. You could see somebody that's going through the hot flashes and you see them dripping with sweat when the AC is on high.
Wow.
Yes, different people have different ways they react, and that's linked to your hormones, and the hormone replacement therapy helps to manage some of those, because when you're already in that state, so imagine you're sitting, the AC is on high, you're hot, you're flustered, you're sweating, you're already irritable there. So for you to realize that there is something you could get in that state that would help you. So that consciousness is also important, and making sure you have good information about where you could access help and products would also be helpful.
Yes, and I totally agree with that. Like I say, once you know if you're preparing for it, you've sorted you're 50%, in fact 60%.
Yes,
you're ahead of the curve.
Yes,
vitamins. Once you're able to assess, your body, you're taking you're intentional about recording what is going on with you. It helps you to know what it is that you need to narrow it down on. So she talked about vitamins. Yes, a bunch of us, because these are things that we're not, it's not part of our culture. It's not part of our culture.
That's what scares me. It's not a conversation that is usually had. For women, we are told about difficulties of delivery.
Yes.
You're not even really told. In fact, that day I just kept shouting at my mother when I was having my first child. Unfortunately for her, she was there. I said, you did not say it. It was like this. And they'll just say, as soon as baby comes out, it's okay. I'm like, it's not still okay. Baby has come out. I'm not still okay. So, there's just a lot of it's natural. There's really nothing you can do about it. That's kind of like the mindset. Nobody really tells you how bad it could be, what you should do.
Yeah.
It's just like you're a woman, you must just
find a way to test it.
And at least with pregnancy, people at least talk about it. We know it could be difficult. We know, we have an idea
around it. Yeah.
But I think it's as I'm getting older, I'm nearer to getting to that point that I've already started having conversations around it, or even my friends who are going through it, and we are having those conversations. So why is it that people don't really talk about it?
I think this is my personal opinion. I think it's cultural.
It's cultural.
I think it's cultural. I think we don't like talking about things that are uncomfortable because we don't want to be honest. there's an honesty that comes with these conversations that kind of strip you. And no, a lot of people don't want
to be
Yeah,
there.
feeling vulnerable.
Yes,
Yeah.
you know. So I think culturally we're taught that being vulnerable is not a good thing.
Place to
Yeah,
be.
it doesn't make you look
Doesn't make
strong.
you look strong.
Yes.
Is weakness.
Yeah.
And I think that's where all of this, has come from. But like I say, we're in an age, thank God for the age that we're in, and just talking about these things, even the conversations you're having with your friends has already kind of prepared you, to a certain extent, kind of prepared you. Okay, something is going to happen, and that helps you to prepare, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And just to add to that, as we sum it up, culture has a big thing to do with it. And I think also when we look within our environment, so most of our mothers had their own way of dealing with those situations. And they came from a clime where it was not acceptable or expected for such discussions to be had. So we inherited that. But now you're in a generation where we are now talking. So the expectation is that the generation after us
that, we'll
do
talk
more.
more.
We'll
Talk more.
We'll do more, talk more, and know more.
Yeah, and know
And
more.
also with the social media information, though you have to sift through what is real and what is not real, that also, provides mediums for people to get information and to be more aware. So as we embrace some of these topics and have some of these tough discussions and mentor people, and share real life experiences, I think it will
helps.
definitely
Let's
get
also
better.
evolve.
Yes.
Yes.
So
We've kind of
veered off.
left. Yes. That, and you rightly said
Yes,
so,
I said
that
it.
this conversation is really
Very
broad.
Yeah.
And there's so many questions that can be asked, because I feel we have not even done it justice at all.
We'll still
But just
continue.
before we wrap up, bringing it back to the conversation on work-life balance. Because imagine going through all this and you still have to get up. Maybe you were not even able to sleep till 4 a.m. And you have to, in our crazy Lagos, you have to be up at 6 a.m. to be in the office for 8.
Yeah.
So how do you really handle all this? And if you have any knowledge on offices, do you know if any companies provide any type of care? Just the way we're just talking about pregnancy. With that, in the office space, there's clear support for pregnant women. But are there any support for women in their prime?
Okay. I would say not enough. I would say there's still a lot that needs to be done. But I would also say that the buck kind of stops with you. If you're at this stage, you should be very clear on boundaries. You should be very clear on what your priorities are because of the season that you're in, right? You should be able to say, I can't do this. You should be able to say no. I read something very interesting yesterday. I was reading a book and he said, every yes is a no to something else.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if I'm saying yes to
that,
stricter deadlines, harsher deadlines, maybe I'm saying yes because I'm still struggling to be promoted. I'm now saying no to my peace, my comfort, my mental health. Do you understand?
Yeah. Yes.
So it's about choices.
Yeah.
It's about choices.
Making the right choices.
And for you to make the right choices, you must be informed. You must know understand what you're going through and understand what is important to you in this season of your life.
Yeah.
That's why there's no answer. Do you understand? It depends on what is important to me. If I didn't start, for example, I didn't start saving or investing early, and I'm still under pressure because retirement is coming, I will make the choice to continue to push myself. But it's important that I have agreed with myself that is the choice I have made.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yes.
So, but if I have gotten to a point where I'm now starting to transition to a point where I'm thinking legacy, I want to be more of a mentor. I want to. You can even start that in the workplace, and there are some projects that will come and you will decline.
Yeah.
Do you understand? But that has there's something to pay for that. But if you think about it and you decided I'm at peace, I'm just going to stay here. And there are people that I've met that are like that. I'm going to coast until I retire, so I'll get my retirement benefits.
Simple.
Do you understand?
Yes.
And then you can cope with what you want to cope with.
Yeah.
You understand? So that
So
I think it's
managing
about choices.
Yeah.
It's more about choices than anything else.
And I think it's also very important we have this conversation pre our prime.
Yeah.
To help
Yeah.
people better prepare for the
Yes,
prime. So
yes.
when you're at the
Perspective.
prime,
Yeah.
you are able to be more relaxed, to be able to
Yes.
cope with some of the realities of life that will hit you at that time. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. As I said, I don't think we have just scratched the surface. I've not done this topic enough justice. So I'm sure we're going to revisit it. If you have questions, if you're like me, that we are to getting there, I think I've gained a lot. And as you rightly said, we are doing the conversation before, because I think it's better to already have these conversations before than when you're there, you're stuck and you're still juggling and not sure on how to manage your emotions, manage, all these changes and still manage your work life. So at least if you're already preparing yourself before, then okay, at this point, I'm going to give up XYZ because I want to focus on me. So yeah, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for giving us this advice. Remember to subscribe, hit the notification button, tell a friend,
Tell a
to
friend.
tell a friend, to
Share.
tell a friend,
And share.
and share. Make all your comments because we really love reading it and learning more. Thank you so much.
Thank you.